The standards, certificates, and policies that decide who is recognized, who is trusted, and who is refused. This is the identity layer. Welcome back to the identity layer, where we look at the hidden infrastructure of who we are. In this episode, we're looking at identity tokenization, which sounds a bit like a word invented to survive a compliance meeting. But stay with me, because it might be the most practical privacy idea in the whole identity stack. So here's the whole episode in one picture. Token is born when you say yes, and it dies on a clock. It gets created, stored, used, and checked at every turn. Still valid? Well, carry on. Expired? Renew it or it's gone. Revoked? Destroyed. Nothing lingers by default. So hold that thought while we end this diagram by the end. The real questions in this episode are these. Who can join the dots about your life? And who is kept from ever doing it? Now, I have a saying that every problem has a solution. The problem is finding that solution. So let's start with the problem properly. What's the problem? I'd like you to meet Alex. On Monday, she's at the tax office. Every Thursday, she's at the health clinic. Same woman, same week, different counters. And at the end of both of them, she writes down the same number. The one on her tax file, the one on her medical records, the one at the bank, and even the one on a SIM contract. One number for everything. It's quite convenient, right up to the time that one of those systems leaks. Because the attacker doesn't need her passwords. They need the one thing that every database agrees on, her number. With it, her whole life joins up into a single row. Now, the solution is almost as embarrassingly simple to say. Different numbers, but the same person. This is tokenization. Somewhere safe, there's a master identifier for Alex. It never leaves the building. What goes out instead is a derived identifier, different for each part of her life. One for tax, one for health, one for the bank. Each one is mated through a one-way function, so you can't walk backwards from any one of them back to the master. Same person, many cells. And the point is on the slide, tax cannot read health. A breach in one compartment stays in that compartment. Now, for this to work, the jobs have to be kept apart. 5 of them. The authority holds your identity, the vault stores it, the token service speaks for you, the consent service asks you first, and the audit log watches all of them. Nobody gets to do another's job. Now, that separation is not bureaucracy. It is the core essence of the security model. Can the dots ever be joined? Yes. And honestly, sometimes they must be because of fraud, the court may request it, or because of some serious crime. But look at how. A verifier only ever gets to see a sector token on a single-use consent proof. Joining tokens back to one person happens only through the trust anchor on legal grounds, and at every step, it is logged. Linking does still exist. It's just no longer an accident sitting in a shared column. It's a deliberate act with a paper trail. And the consent runs the clock. A yes starts it. A no stops everything at the door. When the time runs out, you renew or the token simply dies. Whatever data is left gets deleted, anonymized, or locked away. Nothing is kept just in case, because just in case is how honeypots are built. Right, back to the topic. Because this is what the show is all about. Not the app, not the wallet, the standards, certificates, policies, and incentives underneath, deciding who is recognized, trusted, or refused. So who guards the guardians? Simple. No one holds both halves. The token service never keeps a raw identity. The registry never sees how you're used. The auditor, which watches both and touches neither. De-anonymizing anyone would take a conspiracy. And ladies and gentlemen, conspiracies always leave fingerprints. But let's not oversell it. Tokenization is not a magic trick. The vault becomes the crown jewel, so guard it like one. The sector keys are the difference between compartments and one big pool. And more moving parts mean more surface. It moves the risk, and it turns a house fire into a bin fire. It doesn't put the fire out. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. And it has to earn its compliance, not claim it. Data minimization, well, in other parlance, we call that selective disclosure. Purpose limitation, that's the consent token. Storage limitation, that's the expiry clock. Accountability, that's the audit trail. Every principle maps to a mechanism you can point at. That's the difference between a compliance promise and a compliance demonstration. And this is the identity layer. Quick recap for anyone who's missed episode 1. Every login, badge, and token resolves the same 3 questions. Who do you claim to be? Can you prove it? And what are you allowed to do? Most breaches happen between these 3. Because beneath every digital interaction is a system of trust. Digital identity isn't a background process anymore. It's infrastructure. It sits under your banking, your travel, your healthcare, and even your job. So let's go back to Alex's number and ask the question plainly. So what if one number opened every door, one identifier, every database, one breach away? And notice, the risk isn't really losing your data. Steal a password, you lose a password. Yes, it's annoying, but it's fixable. Steal the number every system uses to find you, and you lose the entire lot. The damage job wasn't done by the hacker. It was designed in years ago when we decided that one key should fit every lock, which means that the number was never the problem in the first place. Sharing it was. You can't verify people without something stable to hold on to. The trick is holding it and never handing it out. So that's the principle under all of this. Tokenization separates knowing who you are from storing who you are. Verify the person. Don't warehouse the person. And to be clear, it is not encryption with better marketing. Encrypted data is one leaked key away from full disclosure. A token has absolutely no math to attack. It reverses only through a guarded vault. Steal the token store and congratulations, you've stolen a pile of numbers that mean absolutely nothing. One honest caveat before anyone gets carried away. Tokenization is not anonymous. The link back does exist. It's kept separately under lock and key, but it does exist. That makes pseudonymized data, which is still personal data, and GDPR or whatever other data privacy regulation still applies in full. Build as if the regulator is watching, because it is. This is the identity layer. Thanks for watching. If this was useful, hit the subscribe button below. It generally helps the show to reach the people who build these systems. And the full technical write-up with diagrams, architecture, and the sources is available on our Substack at identitylayer.substack.com. Again, identitylayer.substack.com. Join us there and see you next time.